Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Marvel Fan Theories podcast. We have a really great episode for you guys today. It is the first new content we've had, other than the ending of What If, in quite a while. It is the prep for the amazing, well, it looks amazing, we haven't seen it yet, Eternals movie that comes out in 2 weeks, and we are very excited to talk about our predictions for it today.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say, I don't know if any of our listeners care to know this, but this is probably the first episode in, I'd say, almost 2 months that we're actually getting to record in the same place, same time kind of thing.
No more internet issues!
Yeah, so the difficulties that we've been having for this episode will be non-existent, so that is also a very exciting thing.
Reunited and it feels so good.
Anyway.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
You know, you could have duetted with me and it would have been this great sisterly moment.
Singing,
but
I didn't know the song.
Oh my god.
Who is it?
I don't know who sings it. It's literally just like one of the most famous songs ever.
Well, no one knew. I didn't.
Okay, well, there are definitely other people out there
as the only other person in this room, no one knew what you were talking about.
Okay,
so, yeah, I just wanted to share that a little bit. And yeah, I mean, to your point earlier, first real content other than the ending of What If, of course, to our usual listening, if you have been here and been keeping up, we didn't cover What If episode by episode, just because of it being a little bit different than some of our other MCU.
And shorter. The episodes were so much shorter.
Yeah, and it obviously, What If, we have yet to fully know the implications of it on our MCU, if it is going to have an implication. I mean, they just had a multiversal battle, but like, so I don't know how that didn't at all impact us, but so because we aren't really sure of the implications yet, there was a lot of factors that we had decided to not go episode by episode with that one. But make sure to go watch our full, like, in-depth 9-episode reactions, our thoughts on all of them, and the blog for that. So just go watch that, or listen to that, read that, and then come back here too, because we're gonna do Eternal predictions.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this movie. I mean, the cast is incredible. I know a lot of people, I mean, I think you sometimes feel this way too. You worry about the MCU getting a little too big for its britches with some of the names it's bringing in, like, you know, Angelina Jolie and, like, Richard Madden and Kit Harington, like, obviously, and, you know, and some of the other, you know, really, there are a lot of really recognizable actors and actresses in this movie.
Yeah.
Those just being some of the names I can think of off the top of my head. We'll talk about one of the other big names later.
It took me a hot
The one that
sec.
nearly broke the internet, but we're not gonna start there today.
The one I had a cardboard cutout living in my room of for like 4 years.
If I passed your room in the dark, sometimes I would see the silhouette of a human and wonder who was in your room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. But we'll get there in a minute. But anyway, so going back to my original thought, you know, I think you've had this thought, and I'm sure other people have as well, that, you know, worrying that it's getting a little too big with some of the names that's bringing in. Not that, you know, our you know, original 6 or whatever weren't already big names, but
I mean, theoretically, if we really go back to the first, like, 2008, 2009, 2010, when we're introducing some of them, like, I mean, they were names, but they weren't the big names they were today.
The big headline when Thor was cast was...
They cast nobody.
Yeah, literally. Like, you know, with these cute little pictures of baby Hemsworth and Hiddleston, you know? Like, so in some ways they really were very much unknown. And now you're starting to see, because of obviously the success over the past, you know, 12, 13 years...
I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is a huge name to add.
Yeah, for sure. So we're starting to see bigger and bigger names. I personally love it. I think there's a lot of stigma around superhero movies, and people think, oh, you're selling out, like you're not making a good movie because you're, you know, being a part of a superhero movie. But I think more and more that stigma is going away as bigger names attach themselves to these movies and show, like, hey, like, I'm not afraid to, like, be a part of a superhero movie, and that doesn't mean, just because it's in that genre, doesn't mean it's a shallow movie, because I don't think that the MCU movies have been shallow. I think there's been layers and depth to all of them, some more than others, of course, but they're not, I don't think any one of them has been one-dimensional in any way, so I'm excited about the cast. I think it visually looks beautiful, and that's just kind of my 2 cents on what it looks like, and we're definitely going to deep dive into who they are and the content, but just from like a visual standpoint and a casting standpoint, I'm already super, super hyped, and I can't wait for this movie to come out.
I mean, I can definitely say, I know you kind of said that about 5 seconds ago. I can definitely say when I first was aware of some of the casting, especially Angelina Jolie, do not get me wrong, I love her.
Cheekbones for days.
Yeah, like, I literally love her. But I was a little concerned because I was not sure how I felt about such a big name being in these movies, because I felt that, obviously the Marvel, like, MCU entirety has been growing over the past, I don't know what, now kind of 11, 12 years?
13. 2008 was 13 years
Jesus,
ago.
I can't math. So obviously it's been growing now, but, as all these have been happening, I just kind of was like, it's growing, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like you still had that niche. You had that group of people who were in that with you. And now it's like, I think my concern was, and it's also positive, of course, and I think when we bring up the name drop later...
He who shall not be named until later in this podcast.
Yeah, I think when you bring that up, I mean, that's a whole different factor of the amount of people who will now, if they weren't bothering with Marvel, will be bothering with Marvel, at least for that movie.
Yeah.
If not further. So I think, like, knowing what the big names bring, I think it's almost a little stressful, because it feels like that little, hey, someone stepped on my toes.
Like, this is my community.
Yeah, I'm like, hey. Yeah. So I think that was, like, my initial reaction. As more of the trailers have come out, obviously I've definitely been feeling more and more like, okay, I'm ready. Yeah. Like, I'm more excited about the movie. I don't really care about the implications of it. But I'm more excited to just see it, get it in my eyes, let me soak it in, like, I want to see it, and I want to understand, because I know the Eternals are a little bit different than what we've been seeing, and I think this is probably my question almost every single movie, I think, so far that we've been covering is, and we can obviously get to this much later, but this is the hounding question for me, is, like, what will be the implications of the Eternals? Mm-hmm. Like, where is the overlap going to be? What is this going to all show?
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's interesting and where I get really excited, of course I'm excited about the implications, because every movie just leads into something new and exciting and amazing. And in 2 weeks, I'm sure I'll be screaming into a microphone at you guys, or to you guys, not at you guys because you're great, but to you guys about what excited me and what I think is coming next and what this really means. And that's all fantastic.
Me after Venom. Where I literally called you screaming.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the movie yet, and I was like, can you just, not? It's 11 p.m. Basically, I'm an old lady, and that was bedtime for me on a Friday. But,
I was up for another, 3 hours that night, because I was like, oh my god!
Anyway, where I get super nerdy is, how does this thing that's coming out of totally left field tie into what we already know? And you and I literally 10 minutes ago just had this conversation about the Eternals and how they tie into some of the things that we know and other franchises, even though they seem like they're so completely out there in the both literal and metaphorical sense. Well, which is, of course, just to put it right out there, they in the comic books are created by the Celestials. They also say that in the trailer. That's who creates them. That is who they answer to. Where have we seen Celestials before?
You're doing great.
I am trying my best over here. We've seen them twice. I just got so excited I forgot half a word. It's fine. We've seen them in Guardians 1 when they go into nowhere. That place, Gamora has a really quick expositional line where she explains that head nowhere is the head of a Celestial.
Then technically wouldn't we have seen Celestials in 3 places? Not 2.
Well, if it's the same head, I'm only counting once. Okay. And then in Guardians 2, I also forgot about that. But but still, my argument holds up. And also in Guardians 2, Ego is a Celestial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I second guessed myself for a second because I think he's not in the comics. But they made him one, I'm pretty sure, in the movie. I know he is in the movie, but I'm pretty sure he's not considered one in the comics. But don't quote me on that one, guys. I will do a quick look up and have Katie clarify that in the blog. But there's a part of me that believes he's not that in the comics. Anyway, Ego in the movie is a Celestial. So we've seen them twice in the Guardians, and now we are seeing kind of their the result of, at least in the comics, their experimentation on humans, and they create the Celestials, and then later they continue to experiment and create the
Eternals, you mean?
Yes, sorry, the Eternals and the Deviants, the protagonists and the antagonists of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, something you kind of said that I want to touch on, because I have a feeling we might have said this far long ago, in one of the episodes where we kind of just were like, oh, when the Eternals Down the Road comes out, and now it's coming out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. The passage of time is confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, like how is it near the end of October?
I just don't talk to me about it.
But, so at the time, when we were like, oh, far away, it was the idea of like, and I know I said this to one of my Marvel friends, it was okay, so why were these really powerful human beings, like, not present any other time? Well, they addressed this in the trailer already.
Just straight up, they were like, we know you guys have this question, so we're just gonna
They were like,
throw it
we're
in your
just gonna
face.
cover it from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. So now I want the other end of it.
Mm-hmm.
What is it gonna mean? What, like, where are you gonna take these really like, this is like Captain Marvel kind of thing for me, is like, you're creating these very powerful human beings, and I just, and I know that's a lot of people's
Human beings is a loose term for these guys.
Well, okay.
Beings.
Sorry, they're like human in real life. But you're creating these very powerful beings similar to Captain Marvel, and like I said, this feels like a big argument that granted, I'm not even gonna get into some of the other things that why people don't like her, anything like that. But I think this is one of the arguments, is she's so powerful. I mean, look what she could do even in Endgame. So it came down to, she is so powerful, what does she go up against?
Yeah.
You know? So I kind of wanted the same thing. Obviously, in this movie itself, the Deviants were quite literally made to fight the Eternals. Well, they're the antagonists, so they're, like, enough to, like... They're literally, the Eternals' sole purpose is to fight the Deviants.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess, like, for me, it's like, okay, that explains this movie.
Yeah.
But I know there's already been the rumor of a possible Eternals 2.
Well, I mean, at this point, you almost have to assume that every new hero or group of heroes they bring on will be a franchise of at least a trilogy.
Which is fair. But then I'm also like, where do you fit in with the rest of it?
Yeah, because I think it's interesting because even in the trailers, they refer so many times to our central MCU, at least our Earth-centered MCU. They talk about the Avengers. He literally says, Eternals assemble. Yeah. Like, he talks about, oh, what is this, in that funny scene where he breaks the table, he's like, what is this table made of? Vibranium? Like, there are, and they mean the whole, Salma Hayek is a huge name that I totally forgot about, too.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about her.
But Salma Hayek has this line in the first trailer that came out where she's like, you know, Thanos wiped out half of the beings in the universe, and the people of this planet brought them back with just a snap. So they're obviously very aware of what the Avengers are doing. So it's, like, very interesting to me because I think even in Shang-Chi, like, obviously they were aware, but, like, it feels like they're almost more aware in this movie. Yeah. And, like, that's my kind of what I'm getting from the trailers.
Yeah, and I guess, like, and maybe this is because we've seen phases 1 through 3. We've lived phases 1 through 3, and we never knew where phases 1 through 3 were going to take us because it was new.
Yeah.
And I think we've maybe had part of this conversation before, even with Loki, where it became down to, this is the start.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for fans who have been now very invested in this to slow back down and be like, okay, now let's watch the origin stories. Yeah. Let's get everyone established.
Yeah.
Let's bring this together and let's bring that together, especially when you've got freaking Spider-Man slated for the end of this year and we've got one trailer.
Yeah.
I was sitting in this very room watching the first trailer and it's 2 months later and I have not seen a new trailer.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think too, like, to your point, the last 3 years of phases 1 through 3 were so intense.
Yeah.
Because we were getting so close. And then we obviously had that, like, weird break that we're just going to pretend never happened. But, you know, prior to that break, we were at breakneck speed moving towards Infinity War and Endgame. And so, like, to your earlier point, like, to pull that back and go all the way back to what we were thinking about. I mean, not me, because I wasn't a huge fan back then, but what huge fans were talking about in 2008 with Iron Man, in 2011 with the first Avenger, and, you know, and Thor, and then, of course, with the first Avengers, like, to go all the way back there, like,
yeah, and no one knew. No one knew where this was all going to go, because it took one movie to flop completely that this could have gone off course.
Yeah, we were just excited to get movies.
Yeah.
I mean, those who were watching, because again, not me.
Now we're so invested in this where I think it's like, okay, how do you top the last phases?
Yeah. Well, and you know that they're just destroying every box office record that's ever existed, so it's not like they're going to stop. I mean, they have our next 5 years of movie going planned out, because truthfully, I don't go to the movies unless it's a Marvel movie.
I mean, I really don't either.
I'll make 1 or 2 exceptions during the year for a movie I'm excited about. For example, Dune. I will probably go see Dune in theaters. Other than that, I'm not going to watch a movie that's not a Marvel movie. And so, like, they're basically planning my theater going for the next 5 years, and we don't have to worry about what happens if a movie doesn't do well. They'll just, like, be like, man, that sucked, and then move on to the next one.
I mean...
And they're not going to flop. Let's be real. We would be living in a parallel universe if they did.
No, you're right. So that's why, like, I think it's hard to look at this movie and be like, where are the implications? Where do you come in and meet Shang-Chi? Yeah. Where do you come in and you meet Yelena?
Yeah.
You know, like, where are they? Because these people are so different, and I think that's hard because one thing I really wish we got a little more of an Endgame was the interactions.
Yeah, cohesion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you had all these people come out of the portals, and it was like, time to fight! And I was like, did they bond for the past 5 years?
I know.
Does everyone know each other now? Like, did you learn T'Challa's name? Did you learn Bucky's? Oh, Wasp knows that? Oh, cool. Everyone knows each other. I'm caught up.
Yeah, like, clearly, like, Strange and Spider-Man now are, like, the new super dad duo. Like,
yeah, but they spend time together.
But I'm just saying, like, that's, like, one bond that we know came out of that movie. But, like, who else? I mean, there was, like, the people who remained. So, like, Natasha's little crew of, like...
Which, yeah, them. You know. But I mean, like, the people who were dusted.
But I'm trying to prove your point. It's like, we know a few groups that bonded. But, like, does everybody else now, did they just go back to their lives? Are they working as a cohesive unit? Like I want to know more.
Yeah. No, and that's what I mean. So that's why I'm like, where are we going to see these Eternals go?
Yeah.
Because the big bad we're going to be fighting obviously needs to be enough that they're...
Yeah. So he's got to be, like, I mean, obviously Thanos was not from around these parts. But I think now that we're getting into even greater beings, it now even more reduces the likelihood of a big bad being from Earth. Because
there's no way he's from... We surpassed the Earth one after Ultron.
Agreed.
Like, and I mean, after that What If, we showed how quickly Ultron could have seriously demolished the entire multiverse.
Yeah.
Like, so, but we surpassed Ultron. That was the last we really, like, prominent Earth. 100%. That wasn't just, like, a bad dude. Yeah. Like, an actual, like, threat. You know? And I mean, Loki wasn't of Earth. So, a lot of the threats of the big movies never were. And so, I mean, I'm intrigued to see where it goes. The thing with the Eternals, I think, is because it's so much harder to look at the trailer and go, okay, scene by scene by scene by scene. Because here's what I can tell you walking out of this. I know who the Eternals are, I know who the Deviants are. Nice. I know there are two...
Gold star.
I know that there are 2 Eternals whose names I haven't learned them all fully yet, who will love each other.
Icarus and Cersei, for those of us who have done the reading.
Listen, to be fair, I've been dealing with some personal things.
Oh my god, let's leave that off this episode.
I wasn't going to bring it in this episode, but I was airing some things so that the listeners didn't sit here and think, hey, she knows nothing of what's happening. To be fair, I have a wild story. But, you know, I know that. Cool. I know they've been around for, like, hundreds of years.
Thousands of years.
I was going to say thousands as well. Hundreds of thousands of whatever.
Math.
So, boom. Nice. That's it. Like, I that's what I mean. Like, I think the trailers have shown who they are.
But you definitely need to do the supplemental reading in order to get some real
But I
background.
kind of don't want to. Because I want to, for the first time, to go in a long time and be like, who the heck am I watching on the screen? Explain to me. This is an origin story. I don't want to do the research beforehand this time. I want to sit here and be like, explain to me, Marvel. Tell me who you are telling me these people are. Not who the comics tell me they are. You know, not who everyone else is telling me they are. And you know what? To all the listeners, watch yourself out there. There are already spoilers.
Yes, it is. Don't internet for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, because I had a friend text me who's looking very forward to this. This is one of his favorite directors. and he is looking super forward to this movie, and he has already spoiled part of it, and he texted me yesterday about it. So I am warning all of you now to be very careful this
has to be the first time I can remember that spoilers came out of a premiere.
Yeah.
The premiere was, which by the way, the cast.
Why? This movie of all movies. Like, Endgame, Infinity War, any of them, I could have, okay, well,
Because Kevin Feige had, like, kill notices.
Yeah,
out
well,
for those
no,
movies.
I was gonna say, Mark.
Oh.
Marky Mark.
Who can't work his phone because he's of a certain age.
But other than that, I mean, that was an incident. It was an isolated incident, though. Like,
it wasn't, though, because then there was also Ragnarok.
This was
which is what I was referring to.
Well, okay.
there's like everybody.
You should see this next one. Everybody dies.
There's like everybody else keeping mum's the word, and then there's like Tom and Mark out here just like, so you guys want spoilers?
Yeah, but like, this one was not the cast.
No.
On an accident. This was someone who watched it and spoiled it.
Yeah. And what gets me is, again, it's a premiere.
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, I don't 100% know how premieres work, but my understanding is these pre-screenings where the cast are involved, that's mainly press, is it not?
Oh, girl, I don't know.
I would assume it's like people
I don't think it's just random. I mean, I do think there are some people who might win tickets or something to it.
Right, but my point is, like, the majority of people there are people who are in the Hollywood business or reporters or things like that who are getting pre-screening so they can write stories about it and, like, write their reviews. Like, so that's why I've never worried about the premiere being 2.5 weeks before the actual movie comes out.
Where it comes down to is when Infinity War and Endgame were coming out, we were literally written letters of silence by the Russo brothers.
Yeah.
The cast came out and did multiple videos that were like, shut up, don't say anything.
Yeah, don't ruin it for everyone else.
Let everyone enjoy it. We're, and I'm gonna say this not a way to just be like, oh, because it's the Eternals, but I'm surprised it was the Eternals.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Spider-Man, and granted, was the thing leaked? Yes. The trailer leaked?
I forgot about that.
Yes. To be fair, should they have released it like 3 weeks earlier? Yeah, and it wouldn't have been leaked. But to be fair, you have movies such as Spider-Man, you have movies such as Multiverse of Madness that are coming out that are massive.
Yeah.
Much bigger
highly anticipated.
Yeah, much bigger than the Eternals, and I don't mean that in like but I mean, these are movies we've essentially, Spider-Man, we've been waiting for this movie since they probably casted Tom Holland.
Yeah,
if we're being honest.
This is like the Mac Daddy of Mac Daddies. Like, I'm literally gonna go see this movie 6 times. Like, I'm just like,
because I'm not gonna be able to handle it.
It's like literally like the first one's gonna like make me scream, the second one's gonna make me cry, the third time's gonna make me like finally begin to like grasp what's actually happening in the movie.
But that's what I mean. So it makes me concerned that this happened now with the Eternals. So I want everyone to be careful. Mm-hmm. Keep an eye out. I wanted to get that off my chest before I forgot it, because I did remember it before and I just didn't want to forget it. Because I don't want this being spoiled for everyone else. Like, I know it's on YouTube, so watch yourself when you're searching on YouTube if you're trying to look up stuff related to the movie. But
just like minimize your time on the internet.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's like kind of my
to my point of what I was saying, like, I kind of want to go to end this time, because I think the first time I saw a real origin was probably
Captain Marvel would have been the last one. I mean, Shang-Chi, yes, but
I did research beforehand. Yeah. I mean, I did some research on Captain Marvel. I'm trying to think. Age of Ultron was the big one I saw in theaters starting, and I know that's not origin, but that was like kind of my start of like, oh, okay, we're paying attention to Marvel now.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm trying to think like what was around there, but yeah, I guess Black Panther. And I didn't do research going into Black Panther, and that movie was amazing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just want to leave myself where I'm like, Marvel, explain to me who this character is to you. Mm-hmm. Not who the comics say he is, or they are, or whatever. Tell me who they're going to be in the MCU.
See, I, in preparation for this, took the opposite approach, because I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background, because I know some of you do listen and hope that, we'll give you the background that you're looking for just a little bit to obviously not spoil anything, because I truly can't spoil anything for you. I don't know anything beyond what is publicly available, and I haven't seen the spoilers. I've been avoiding them, so
yeah, same.
We don't need to give a spoiler warning for this episode. We don't know anything.
No,
I mean beyond what's again publicly
because
available.
we purposely. Although when I spoiled Infinity War for myself, that was the worst moment of my life.
Anyway, so I hit the books. And I did do a little bit of that background. So I'm just going to do a quick little info dump for you guys. Just so that, again, you have some of the background. Some interesting thoughts. Just some theories that I've got. Because, again, this is Marvel fan theories. So just based on my research, I have two kind of theories going into it. The first, so I don't know if you guys have hopefully seen the trailers. But in one scene of the trailer, you see Angelina Jolie's character, Thena.
I do know her name.
I know like who the famous people's characters are. Everybody else I'm kind of like, oh, I'm getting there. But Thena, so she is being like manhandled by a deviant, and he's like got his like tentacles around her. There was a trailer where there were subtitles, and in the subtitles he's given the name of Kroos. Well, in the comics, she actually falls in love with the deviant named Kroos, and they have twin children. So I thought that was interesting that he's in there, so it's entirely possible that is a moment in which she is reunited with a lover, and, like, maybe that's, like...
Well, he does say something about, like, you can't help them, or you can't...
Yeah, so in the trailer, it's framed as, like, this menacing thing, but what if it's actually,
it's a different
like...
moment.
Yeah, like, the reuniting of two lovers, and he's trying to warn her away from taking on this battle, because he obviously doesn't want her hurt, because they're lovers. I mean... That's my theory for that. I just thought you guys should know that that's a little bit of something you won't necessarily get by watching the trailers unless you dig a little deeper. Additionally, and this is where we're going to bring in He Who Shall Not Be Named until this very moment.
Wait, I get every right to announce this.
Caitlin, go ahead. Go for
it. If you have not been paying attention to literally Twitter or Instagram or anything...
The internet as a whole broke.
That was a fool's move because as of what, like yesterday?
2 days ago, I think the premiere was.
It has come out that the one and only Harry Styles will be playing Thanos' brother. Now, this was a rumor that happened, I would say, probably like a year ago. 2 years ago, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And everyone, I think that broke the internet the first time.
Yep.
And now it's been confirmed. So, Harry Styles is going to treat some people with kindness in the MCU.
Here's an interesting connection I made. So when I was reading up on the Eternals, obviously we know that Thanos is from Titan. That's his home planet. We would assume then that his brother is also from Titan. There is, in the Eternals story, a breakup, if you will, of the Eternals. And there is one faction that's a little more benevolent and another faction that's a little more warring. And the warring faction ends up going to Saturn's moon, Titan. So I think that's interesting because now the Eternals are connected to Thanos' birth planet and therefore also might be the tie-in for Harry Styles' character.
Eternals number 2.
Yeah, so...
I mean...
So I just wanted to bring that in too because I read that and I was like, wait a minute, Harry Styles is from Titan. So yeah, that's those are the two things that I think stuck out the most when I was doing my deep dive. Other than one thing that surprised me when I was doing my readings was Kit Harington, who obviously you guys know from Game of Thrones, is not an Eternal, which threw me for a loop.
I realized that as well.
I was like, the first few times I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, cool. And then I was like, oh, he's like a dude.
Because isn't someone else in the movie also from...
Richard Madden.
Yeah, okay. Because they were like, yeah, I saw someone was like, yeah, they only have like 30 seconds or like a minute of screen time together.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how would that be possible? And then I was like, oh, he's like not anyone important. When they were coming out with all the posters, I was like, oh.
He's not actually an Eternal. He's Black Knight, which... On my reading of him, which was a skim while also watching television, he kind of is like a King Arthur-esque type character in the sense that there's a sword and you're only able to wield... It's like a Thor thing, too, where you're like only able to wield the sword if you're worthy and like take it out of its whatever if you're worthy.
That's like a King Arthur. That sounds more King Arthur to me.
Well, the worthiness, you know.
But like my Once Upon a Time thing in me is like, that's
Girl, I like went there too. Do
That's
we
exactly
love
what
the
I was
Disney
gonna do.
universe? Yes, we do. But yeah,
Or
so
just brooding men missing an appendage. If you're me.
Killian, is that you?
Bucky.
Anyway, moving on. So yeah, so he is Black Knight, not an Eternal. So if you were confused about that, very understandable, because I too was very, very
Yeah,
confused.
I thought he was an Eternal. Which makes me kind of back up and be like, what's your role now?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think in the trailers, I really only saw him in the, maybe 2 scenes? So I'm a little intrigued to understand...
that they brought in such a big name for potentially a very small amount of screen time. Yeah.
Because it's not been the first time that they sat there and made someone seem a little bigger in the movie just to be like, oh no, those really are the only 2 scenes you see him in.
Hashtag Taskmaster.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. So, yeah, unless this is more of kind of the whole, like, and not that Monica Rambeau was a small character in WandaVision, but the idea of, like, it's the stepping off point for his character.
T'Challa in Civil War.
Yeah.
Peter Parker in Civil War.
Yeah.
Like, kind
it's
of like
that
a
catalyst.
soft introduction,
Yeah.
and then he gets his own franchise. Like, I could totally see that branch happening.
Well, like,
because you don't,
even
again, you don't bring in a Kit Harington for 5 minutes of screen
even
time.
if he's not that character yet, and he either becomes it throughout the movie, or that's one of the end credit scenes, you know?
Yeah.
Like, something that leads us into, okay, here we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Because...
So he could be a fledgling franchise within this franchise.
Yeah.
That's gonna...
Yeah, because that's what I'm kind of trying, because I'm like, to your point, you don't bring in someone that big for what doesn't seem to be that much time.
I mean, I only ever watched one episode of Game of Thrones.
I never have seen any of it. No one come at me for this.
You were spared. It honestly traumatized me. It was just like so much for episode 1. I was like, oh my. But for those of you who love it, I mean, go off. Like, that's fine. Just like not my cup of tea.
Sorry about the ending.
Yeah. Rip you guys. I'm really sorry. But anyway, he's huge. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Kit Harington, people love him. Again, to what we were saying, just to emphasize, you do not bring in Kit Harington for 5 minutes.
No, I agree.
Unless, again, he's gonna be much bigger later on.
Yeah.
And this is just a soft sounding.
Yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts are with that, because I can't see, I mean, he's just a dude, so, like, I can't see him, like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
Especially when you have all these other big names that are actually Eternals.
Yeah.
And who are actually going to be playing the big roles.
Yeah. What's interesting, too, speaking of casting that's kind of odd, but kind of cool, I believe her name is Gemma Chan. She plays Cersei.
Yeah.
She also was, what's her name? In Captain Marvel. She's one of Captain Marvel's teammates. One of her Kree teammates.
Yeah, she was.
And I can't think of her name off the top of my head.
I don't remember, because I've only seen that movie, like, twice.
I literally was just reading something about how she played both characters.
Yeah,
but
she did.
She has now been given new life in the MCU because she, I think, was unceremoniously killed in that movie.
Oh my god, why don't I remember that?
I think
she was as well.
I'm pretty sure that whole team was killed by either Captain Marvel or
I just watched this movie not that long ago. I'm not sure why I don't even remember that.
Either way, it was clear that her character really didn't have any further use in that.
I mean, to be fair, also, she was like, wasn't she like blue?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, I'm excited for I love her. I think she's amazing. She, of course, plays, I believe, Astrid in Crazy Rich Asians. So this is now the 3rd Crazy Rich Asians cast member in the MCU, which I love that movie. I've seen it so many times, so I'm like, yes, bring them all.
Well, I think the best thing that we gotta do now is, and like I said, I want to preface this, there's not a lot of in-depth, because there's not a lot to go in-depth on.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed, and we pointed this out on Shang-Chi, was...
They keep a lot out.
It's the same footage, cut differently again and again and again. And it's like, okay, cool, now I'm like a master of what's in this footage.
Yeah.
But
But that is what left us there after Shang-Chi going, holy nuts.
Oh, I'm not opposed to this at all. I thought we had for other reasons, but I thought we had way too much footage on Black Widow. I mean, yeah, we were wrong about a lot, but at the same time...
To be fair, that movie was coming out, quote unquote, for like a year and a half. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I didn't know there was a lot going on there.
So they said, let's keep them try to keep them excited. We have all the footage, so here you go.
But I feel like pre-Black Widow, they had, maybe 3 trailers, and all the trailers had different footage.
So you had an idea.
Yeah. So you were given I mean, I don't want to say I ever predicted a plot of a Marvel movie because I'm pretty sure you have to be inside Kevin Feige's brain or on set to know what that is, what those plots are going to be. But you had a definite better idea, I think, than we do now. But I kind of love that they are keeping us so in the dark because every time I go into a movie now, I'm like, 1, I don't know what to expect. 2, I walk out of there and my mind is literally in shreds.
And now, does that make our job here a little hard? Yeah. To be honest, it makes our predictions episodes a little more difficult because we don't really have a lot to go off of. We see a lot of Eternals interactions. That's awesome. But that doesn't do anything for us to talk about.
Oh, speaking of, the one thing we wanted to talk about that we almost forgot, there is a scene where they use sign language. Oh, which,
yes!
We definitely wanted to go off on this. We had, like, literally a whole conversation right before we started recording.
And I think because we did it right before we started recording, I thought I talked about it.
In the scene, you see 2 Eternals communicating by sign language. I believe it is the female who is hard of hearing, but I don't know
any of their names.
Unsure. Yeah, those are 2 that I don't have name memorized. But I believe it's her.
You had brought up, like, oh, nice, like, the representation, like, that's really awesome. And I was like, well, it's a good thing they finally did it, because they obviously didn't do it with Hawkeye, who's
comically deaf.
Yes.
Not, like, funny deaf, but in the comics, he's deaf.
Yeah. And so, I think that's really important. I do think that in the Hawkeye show now, please don't hold me to this. I have not been watching closely for the Hawkeye show very much.
I haven't done prep yet, guys.
Well, I've seen the trailer once when it first came out. I really, like...
There was a new one, too, that just came out
then I didn't see the new one. Or if I did, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it. So, I feel like I saw that he now possibly had hearing aids, and I might have seen an article about it. Obviously, they're probably going to now write this off as he had an incident of some sort. But in the comics, he is actually deaf. He's also younger, but, like, that will never change.
I don't think he was meant to be in this many movies, honestly.
Well, I just, like, they had what's-his-face from Jensen Ackles or whatever from not The Walking Dead, the one with the brothers, the one that, it's like similar to the Vampire Diaries, but
Supernatural.
Yeah. He was a possible cast for Hawkeye.
See, that one had, not that we don't love Jeremy Renner, but that one had a little more legs age-wise.
Well, yeah, and also it seemed to fit a little bit more with everyone else. Because, like, he's a whole dad, and I'm like, but, like, if you, like, look at him in the comics, that's not even close to who he is.
No, he is one of the characters I think is one of the larger departures from his comic book counterpart.
And he's so funny. But that's for the Hawkeye.
We'll get there.
Moving into that. And I just happen to know a lot because the Hawkeye, Black Widow, Bucky, like, love triangle,
it takes a big part of her mental space.
Takes up a lot of my time and my space in head, so.
Her mental real estate is, like, owned by that.
Yeah, literally. But moving into, I think, the part we can only theorize at this point is end credit scenes.
You know, we do this every episode, and I always forget to think about it beforehand.
I'm thinking if we don't see the introduction of Harry Styles' character, we're seeing it in an end credit scene.
Okay, I like that. I can get behind it. So, are you calling that a mid-credit?
I would call that probably mid-credit because what I've been seeing and understanding is mid-credits tend to go a little bit more with the actual movie, and credits tend to be a little bit more, hey, I'm about to blow your mind about something else. And if they do not...
Venom.
Yeah.
Triggered.
Dude. I screamed. I thought I, like, lost my voice the next day from, like, the amount of just nonstop screaming from that. And so, if we're going off of the second one for me, if it's not Spider-Man related...
How much are you gonna throw some stuff in the theater?
Because, to be fair, that's the next big thing, because now Multiverse of Madness has been pushed back.
We're gonna get to that in a minute, because I have some thoughts.
I do want to discuss that briefly. I know this is a predictions episode, but a lot has happened since.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have a little bit of a news dump for you guys once we wrap this section, because there's a lot going on, and so we want to keep you apprised. Is that it for you, Spider-Man and Harry?
I think so. Or if not, Adam Warlock.
Ooh, because he just got cast this week, which I'll get into how I feel about that. But, okay.
Now, I know we have had an Adam end credit before.
Yes, we
However,
did.
I will say now that he has been officially casted,
yeah,
I'm wondering if there will be more of a hint towards him and what he is to come.
Especially because Guardians, James Gunn has said, is the one movie that did not get pushed.
And the Eternals are kind of out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, they actually, if you're going to connect them to any franchise,
Probably
they're most closely connected to Guardians.
Yeah.
Wow, we need to stop hanging out.
We did.
Like, literally.
We did, and yet here we are.
It doesn't fix anything. Okay, great. I think for me, I'm going to go mid-credit is the creation of the official Black Knight. So I think that we're going to see Kit Harington step into his role.
Oh, I kind of said that earlier.
Yeah. I mean,
it's either going to be... It's like the same thing with the Harry one. It's either going to be in the movie or it's the end credits.
Yeah.
Or the mid-credit scene.
So I definitely think that's a very viable option. I could totally see that, especially because, again, Kit Harington. My end credit, I think they're going to skip Spidey because I think they want to keep that so under wraps because it's literally going to be so mind-boggling that I just feel like they're not going to do it. I think they're going to skip it and we're going to get something related to Wanda.
I want to say yes.
Or, like, just something related to Multiverse of Madness. And I know Strange is in Spider-Man, so that makes it kind of hairy, but, like...
See, I want to say yes to that. My only issue is now that they pushed it back. I am wondering if that has an effect. Because the premiere was after they pushed them back.
Yeah,
so,
but if the end credit scene's already filmed, it's already filmed.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that, but I just think we have reached the point where end credit scenes, unless, like Shang-Chi you knew was going to have to, because of the mystical aspect.
What was the end credit scene for?
Doctor Strange, or Wong came out, and then they were talking, remember, Mark, the Hulk... Carol,
was there a second
all of them.
One? What was the second one? Oh, his sister.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember what the other one was.
Yeah, so there was a movie one, and there was a, still movie, but like moving it.
Right.
So they've kind of already done a semi-multiversal, like to the Multiverse of Madness one.
Yeah, but he was still, I guess my thought process with that was like, Shang-Chi was still so prominently in it. Like, there have been some, so for example, Age of Ultron, right? Or no, sorry, Winter Soldier. That one...
opened up a lot.
It is literally the end credits. Has nothing to do with the actual movie. It's the creation of the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. So I'm expecting the second one to be not have a single Eternals character in it.
Well, that's why I think it's good. I think for them to not do Spider-Man when it's around the corner, because now you had Venom come out where it was Spider-Man, but here's the thing. It can't have an implication in Multiverse of Madness because there's physically no way that Venom can be in Multiverse of Madness. Not Multiverse of Madness. I'm sorry. Spider-Man. They can't... There's no way.
It would like almost be like too much. Like I think my body would physically explode.
It would be. And you know what? It would be the mistake they made in Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire.
Oh, I agree.
If they brought in Venom at this point now with what we already know of the Sinister Six. So...
Yeah, because I think that the mistake with that, which has obviously been well documented, is that they were 3 different plot lines.
Yeah.
You know, Sandman and...
and bringing Venom in needs to be its own thing. Because we have the establishment of Venom already.
Yeah, well, and I'm saying doing the Sinister Six, as long as they're working as a unit and they are collectively one bad guy, I'm cool with that. Now, if you're going to tell me you're going to bring in 6 different plot lines, now we're getting into... I'm sorry, Sam Raimi, you're still a great director. But now we're getting into Sam Raimi territory. And, like, the mistakes of that movie. And
so that's why I just think that that the second one's gonna be Spider-Man related, because if they are going to limit what the second trailer looks like and when it's going to drop, I think that they're going to have to add something into this end credit scene.
I don't think so, because think about how little footage we have on Eternals, and they have not been in a singular end credit scene at all. I don't care. I straight up don't care. Because...
they didn't do anything for Shang-Chi.
And he also did not have a lot of footage.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's an example. They didn't do anything with Shang-Chi. They didn't introduce him. The origin story introduced in an end credit was Carol.
Yeah. So I just think, I don't know. I think
you don't need to hint at things that are going to be origins because you're going to get enough of an explanation. The reason she was hinted at was because she was coming into Endgame and they were like, we need to give you an origin, but like we need to tie it into why she's important now. So that's why.
I don't know. I just feel like...
I'm going to say it needs to be Spider-Man. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I'm going to say that it should. Because I think that's Marvel playing their cards right.
I just think there's already so much hype around Spider-Man that they're gonna be like, no. Like, I just feel
the movie comes out a month later.
Yeah, it's literally 6 weeks.
So, I just think that Because they're not gonna, if they tie it, well, no, there's been a Hawkeye one already, so they're not gonna tie it to Hawkeye.
Ooh.
Miss Marvel.
Yup, you read my mind. Because she probably, now that the movie has been postponed,
will be coming out.
She's got to be second week of January latest. I'm thinking same time frame that they did.
So if it's not Spider-Man, probably her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. You have us saying that. We'll say that.
We've literally predicted her for the last 3 movies.
Because she was slated to come out. She should have been out right now.
Yeah, she should be what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of good because I, like, really cannot right now, but, like, also, yeah. I am also sad because I have nothing to do on a Wednesday night now, so there's that.
I just got club meetings. Okay, I'll go with that. I will happily go with that. So now, let's get into some quick updates.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on.
Let's get everyone, obviously we already came out and said Harry Styles in the MCU. Boom.
Adam Warlock has been casted. We talked about this. It's the guy from, what's that movie?
The Maze Runner.
Yes, he was also in that movie with Jennifer Aniston.
The Millers.
Yeah. Which, like, I think I've only probably at the most caught bits and pieces of that movie, but mostly I just know it from memes. So when I was like, that's the guy they cast, but then they showed him, like, he's, like, bulked up and I was, like,
in the interview, and everyone's like, now we're in love.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but I was
no, the internet's in love.
I mean, me personally. Internet, you do you, whatever. But at first I was like, I'm sorry, what now? Then they showed him, prepped and ready to go, and I was like, okay. Get on board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had thoughts, and then I took my thoughts back, and I was like, I'm ready to support you, Marvel.
Yeah,
okay.
So he's been casted. They announced Miss Marvel was officially moved to 2022.
Which, my prediction, like I said, WandaVision timing from this year,
yeah.
So I'm going to go early January so that she's done, I would say, end of February, which would have gone really nice into Strange.
But let's talk about that, because we've now seen the movement of Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Panther. Mm-hmm. All pushed back.
And the Marvels, because the Marvels went from 22 to 23.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone was covering the 2022 movement, down. I don't think I saw that got pushed out.
Yeah, so...
Well, but I was hearing rumors about that.
Well, and also, 4 movies in a year, that's just so ambitious.
But I also didn't like the timeline, because it was literally March, May, July, and I was like, why are...
November.
Yeah, I was like, why are we doing 2 months apart? Let's math a little bit. You can cut a year nicely with 4. So
it does go evenly into quarters.
Yeah, I was like, but yeah, why?
And they also, I didn't do, I was really just looking at headlines, but they knocked a couple off the slate completely. 2 unnamed movies just got completely knocked off the slate.
Well, speaking of now those that got moved off, I'm sorry we're throwing so much of this at you, move back and re-listen if you're kind of trying to keep up. There has been a confirmation for World War Hulk.
I saw that.
After She-Hulk, there will be a movie now for World War Hulk.
There's a lot of
W's. Mark Ruffalo having his moment, as he should.
Yeah, because he truly, forget the Edward Norton version, he truly was the only one who hadn't had at least a series or a movie about him. So, one can argue Ragnarok is really his movie.
Yeah. But no, I agree. So that's been officially added. But why? Why'd we get pushed back?
Yeah, I don't
That's
understand.
Been the question.
Isn't Multiverse
It was done filming. It's been done filming. Unless they're changing things.
Oh god, are they oh my god. I emotionally can't handle it.
Unless there are things that they're going to be reshooting. Unless there are things they're going to be mixing up with the movie that has changed. I don't know. My concern with that is Eternals is the second to last movie before it. So what are you changing? Yeah. Because there's... I don't... Unless Miss Marvel is also going to bleed into it, but...
No, that's America Chavez.
Yeah, Miss Marvel was not confirmed for it. So... And I'm also a little upset, especially about that one moving specifically... Because not only is it obviously highly anticipated, but it's not far, it bleeds right from Spider-Man.
And
What If. But
which
directly, if we're talking real MCU, that we know is confirmed MCU, it bleeds from Spider-Man.
Right.
And so moving it almost almost 6 months.
Yeah. I was happy that it was 3 because you were just really finally digesting. You had a nice little show to cleanse your palate in between.
It's also holiday season.
Yeah, you had a nice little show to kind of, like, get yourself, keep you excited.
Yeah.
But not necessarily, like, super hyper-focused on it. But now it's like, all right, like, what am I supposed to do? I guess the only thing I can think of is, like, I know they've been having... they clearly have been having some sort of issue with Ms. Marvel. It was supposed to be this year, so I guess I'm just wondering if maybe...
Well, there have been issues, and granted, I'm not saying this is necessarily tied to that, but there have been issues with the Marvels.
So there's something going on with that franchise, and everybody involved in it.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if that's starting to affect the larger MCU.
But to your point then, that's why I'm wondering if Ms. Marvel has an impact on Multiverse of Madness somewhere. Because if they're pushing it back because that show needs to now come out again before it.
Yeah. Which then, what if Ms. Marvel gets pushed after a Moon Knight or pushed after a She-Hulk? Maybe not She-Hulk, because I think that's still filming. I think Moon Knight, I know for a fact, is already filming. I don't know that She-Hulk is filming quite yet, but I know Moon Knight is under production.
Yeah, I do know that as well, yeah.
Because I love Oscar Isaac.
I've been seeing it.
And, like, they've been, set photos and stuff, so, is it something where a Moon Knight is coming out next? I don't know.
No, and,
what if he's the second end credit? Because they're switching things.
I don't even want to think about it, because right now with everything getting moved, it's stressing me out.
Yeah.
Because we had a very solid lineup, and things are
I also just don't know how they're going to catch up, like, because they still lost a year.
Well, and things are shoved back.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, now we have almost 6 months of open space. Yeah, you can shove TV shows in there, but this is, I hope, not the mistake that they kind of made with Infinity War and Endgame, and I get what they were trying to do, but giving a year between those movies, it was far too much.
Well, I also don't want them to pull a 20, and I get why they did it. I'm not trying to minimize the coronavirus and its impact in any way, but I don't want them to pull a 2020 where we just get 3 shows in a row, and then, like, yeah, what if, but, like, then we didn't get any shows for the rest of the year except for Hawkeye, and that was, like, 6 months later.
Yeah.
Like, it was, like, so strange because we were, like, every week, okay, a couple weeks off, every week, couple weeks off, every week, and then we had Black Widow, and then for the summer we were like, well, what do we do now?
But they did them on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, what do we do with ourselves now? And then, like, What If was coming out, and again, that's, like, TBD on, like, what exactly that means and where it fits in.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna get Hawkeye, but, like, that's also right on top of a bunch of movies.
And that's also gonna be weird because we're introducing Kate, and so then that comes into, again, you got boots on the ground soldier compared to some of these movies coming out right now who have nothing to do with boots on the ground soldier.
Well, and also, where the heck is the Young Avengers gonna fit in? Is that gonna be a TV show?
No, because they've created all of those already. They're all... Kate Bishop is one of the last ones
who
need to get brought in.
They're clearly building a team, so we're gonna watch the team up happen. Is that gonna be a show? Is that gonna be a movie? Is it gonna be its own franchise? Like, I guess what we're trying to say here, guys, is...
we're stressed.
That, and also, our next episode obviously is going to center around the Eternals and our reactions and, everything coming out of that. But the episode after that, the week after Eternals, is Disney Plus Day, which is also tied to Disney Investor Day, which is where they announce their slate.
Which is critical right now.
Yeah, so we will...
because we're kind of messed up.
For sure. Messed up being an understatement. We will be definitely covering that, so we're going to watch Investor Day, the Marvel section for you, and we're going to do a nice little recap episode for you. Probably will be a little shorter than some of our other episodes, unless there's something, like, really major that we're going to spend, like, 20 minutes on.
That hasn't necessarily been already kind of leaked out.
But, yeah, so we're going to cover that for you guys and have a nice little episode come out that weekend for you so that you are aware of what the changes are, because we know some of them now, which came out strangely before Investor Day. But I'm sure they're going to announce new shows, new movies. I think this year they're finally going to announce the Fantastic Four officially.
Well, and they just in general need to fix now the slate that they gave us. And now we can't even go off of that.
Yeah. So it's been a little tough, but we're hanging in there. And they're going to right the ship, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And The Eternals comes out in 2 weeks, so get ready. Listening to this podcast was hopefully step 1 in your preparation.
Or preferably watching the trailers was step 1 to your preparation.
Yeah, we did reference those a few times. So maybe this is step 2.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys go see it opening weekend. Let's make Marvel kill it in the box office again. who even cares about other franchises anymore? Except for Star Wars.
Or I know a lot of people have been getting pretty hyped for Batman.
And Bond. People like Bond.
I know.
The only way I'll care about Bond is if, like, Tom Hiddleston becomes Bond. In which case, I will start watching this movie.
I am intrigued to see the Batman, but that's a different thing.
I also am too. We're not DC haters in this house. I'll rib on them, but we don't hate them.
DC haters of what DC's put out, for the most part. Because
their shows are fabulous.
Unfortunately, DC has not put out. And I mean, when you're such big Marvel fans and you're seeing what amazing things Marvel was doing with the same exact idea.
Yeah.
And they're like, and DC's out there like, ha 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 ha, Ben Affleck. Like.
No, that's the joke. Ben Affleck.
Yeah. Like, you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, so get hyped for that too. I mean, I don't think that was moved. That's still going to be in March.
March 6th.
Because originally it was going to be fighting with Multiverse of Madness a little bit.
Maybe that's, I mean, not that Marvel would ever back down, but...
Heck no, they would destroy DC with, specifically with that movie especially.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it in the, like, DC versus Marvel, but with Multiverse of Madness, one of the most anticipated movies we will probably ever see, if we're being honest. Because I think this thing's been, since there were 3 Spider-Men, they were like, let's do this.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Eternals.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Get ready, get hyped, get your tickets, go see it. Because tickets are out, my friends.
I gotta get my tickets.
I've had my tickets for weeks.
I have to get like 6, because it's my roommate's birthday.
Fun.
So.
But that's it for today, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully you enjoyed our take on what potentially will happen in Eternals, and also the little news dump we did for you guys, just so that you can keep up, and we're keeping up for you. So
keep on keeping on.
In the great words of Shaggy Doo. Anyway, as usual, please remember to subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform. If you want to leave us a review or a rating, that also helps us get found. If you really like us, guys, tell your friends and family and other Marvel fans you know. Word of mouth really helps us out. Please, please, please share with everyone you know. Also, please follow the blog because we have lots of supplemental content on there. Things we don't always get to talk about in the episode. Make it on the blog as our kind of catch-all place.
Yeah, and also Twitter, guys. Let's talk MFT. Go on it. Talk to me. Send me things. That's really all I have to say about that.
Theories. We love to hear your theories.
Well, I do like to tweet our theories and your theories. I like to retweet them. Of course, this is Marvel theories, and now, while all the time we obviously are not always able to cover theories while there's actual content that just in general needs to just be discussed. At the end of the day, we were born off of theories, and we are still 100% theories, so please tweet at us your theories. I will like to tweet our theories, your theory. Wow.
All the theories.
Speech impediment said no.
She's sleepy.
Yeah, I have had a long day. So, make sure you're following us there, and as always, and I know if we didn't just stress you out a little bit, I'm going to, and just tell you, watch all the content. Keep up with everything Marvel's throwing at us, because Marvel just blew your mind, so let's talk about it.